Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Welcome to Orioles on the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined as always by Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens. And with the first half of the minor league season winding down, we present our first half All-Stars for the Orioles farm system. And we've got a lot of fun names in the mix and some players that have really stood out over the first 2.5 months of the season. That'll be on tonight's episode, which is brought to you by IQ Bar, our exclusive snack, hydration, and coffee sponsor. IQ Bar protein bars, IQ Mix hydration mixes, and IQ Joe mushroom coffees are a delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel you need to win your day. The Ultimate Sampler Pack is a great way to try all IQ Bar products and flavors. You get 9 IQ Bars, 8 IQ Mix sticks, and 4 IQ Joe sticks. All IQ Bar products are clean label certified, entirely free from gluten, dairy, soy, GMOs, and artificial ingredients. All IQ Bar products are packed with clean, delicious ingredients that keep you physically and mentally fit, like magnesium, lion's mane, and more. With over 20,000 5-star reviews and counting, more people than ever are fueling their busy lifestyles with IQ Bar's brain and body boosting bars, hydration mixes, and mushroom coffees. Their Ultimate Sampler Pack includes all 3. IQ Bars become part of my daily routines, whether it's starting my morning with IQ Joe, grabbing an IQ Bar or IQ Mix to refuel or rehydrate after a hard workout. And right now, IQ Bar is offering our special podcast listeners 20% off all IQ Bar products, including the Ultimate Sampler Pack, plus free shipping. To get your 20% off, text MLB to 64,000. Text MLB to 64,000. That's MLB to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. And as I mentioned in the intro, we are set to unveil our first half All-Stars with the first half of the minor league season, winding down, and kind of like what we've done when we've broken down our monthly all-prospect teams, we're basically going to put together something close to a full roster, starting 10 or starting 9 with the DH to go along with a handful of relievers. We also have 5 starters in our rotation, and I might as well get right into this because catcher through the infield, we were all unanimous in our choices. We give Creed Willems the nod behind the plate. He has had an excellent first half at AAA Norfolk. At first base, we go with the organization leader in home runs. That is Frederick Keyes, first baseman, Victor Figueroa. Aaron Estrada, after a slow start, hits his way into the second base slot here on this team. At third base, a player who started this season down in the FCL and has really turned heads with his pure hit tool, that is Jaden Loray. And then at shortstop, Wahiva Aloy, one of the Orioles' top picks in their draft class last year, who's put up excellent numbers at Frederick. So this is a really good group here. And as we'll get into a little bit later on when we name our D8s, it was not an easy choice at catcher, and there were some close battles at some of these positions. But at the end of the day, I feel like we put together a good group here, and I want to get your guys' thoughts, starting with Nick.
Yeah, I mean, Creed, obviously the catcher was between Creed and Ethan Anderson there, but to see Creed Willems go 13 home runs, he's already 4 off his career high, and it's, the second week of June here. I haven't seen the strikeout rate spike either with him in AAA. A 127 WRC plus for a catcher like him at the AAA level is just amazing to see. He's not hitting the ball like incredibly hard. I think his max EV and like 90 EV are like just above 50 percentile or so, but he's a barrel god, and those are resulting in home runs. So love to see that from Creed. Victor Figueroa, the 17 home runs is just insane. He's crushing it this year. Aaron Estrada, Wahiva Aloy, great picks as well. Obviously, they're turning heads this year. And then Jaden Loray just did he get on base like 3 or 4 times on Sunday? I mean, it's 9 games since he's been promoted to single A, and he's hitting 323, 10 walks to just 4 strikeouts, 4 extra base hits, 6 for 7 in solo base attempts, a 180 WRC plus, just 9 games, but still a lot of fun. 3.8% swinging strike rate there for Jaden Loray. Just an incredible start for the 19-year-old kid who's, you hate to just say like, all right, high school pick, unknown guy from kind of nowhere. All right, yeah, this is Nate George 2.0. There's some Nate George-esque vibes in terms of like his rise and his style of play as well. Like it is, I'm not saying they're the same level prospect yet, but there's some similarities in the whole prospect profile there, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the surprising things about this this little activity we did here, this voting, was that how unanimous most of the positions were, at least on the offensive side. A little surprising. There was a couple close calls, Jaden Luray being one of them. For me, I had Anderson De Los Santos right behind him. I mean, maybe you could fudge the numbers, put Frederick Bencosme at third base, even though he's kind of just an outfielder now. But I had to give it up to JLE or JLR, JLo, whatever we're calling him. We still have to work on the nickname for him, but love to see what he's done. And it seems like he's just getting better. The more experience he's getting, the more playing time he's getting. I've already seen, like when he first started out in the FCL, he wasn't striking out at all, but he also wasn't walking at all. And then all of a sudden, boom, walking a lot and hitting for power. That one home run, I know it's all we have to work on so far, but that was impressive. He's got clearly some pop in the bat, and yeah, it's just fun to watch. If the Orioles are gonna lean into the Nate Georges and Jaden Larays of the world, where it's like going 100 miles per hour at all times, and just like, what did he call himself? Like a
dirt bag.
Dirtbag, yeah, I like the style. I like that dirtbag style, so I could get behind that. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, Estrada, Aloy, pretty obvious picks there. I mean, Leandro Arias, I guess you could make a case for at second base, but yeah, Creed, what a year. He's been fantastic. He just gets better month to month, it seems like, striking out a little bit less, walking a little bit more, always hitting for power. Figueroa is striking out like over 30% of the time, but like we said when we talk about Vance Honeycutt, if you're going to hit the ball with the high impact, it doesn't matter as much. Unfortunately for Vance, he hasn't been able to do that as much, but Victor is doing it, Figueroa. So that's fun. And did we talk about Ethan Anderson at DH?
Not yet. I think
Spoiler.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll go over to Anderson next. I'll just say real quick about third base. I actually thought about Luray and Elvin Garcia in that spot. And Garcia has had a really nice year, very similar to Luray. Started out in the FCL, got up to Delmarva. Numbers in Delmarva have been solid, but I think the real separator for me was Luray just is showing elite judgment in the strike zone right now. And, he's going to be tested when he gets up to the higher levels. It's going to be really hard to sustain the high walk rate to the low strikeout rate. But the fact that he's showing this at this young of an age with the kind of hit tool he has, and honestly, I think that there is a little bit of power projection there in the bat, was the difference for me. That was kind of what separated those two guys. I think both have had excellent years, but I really like what Luray is showing us right now.
Absolutely.
Before we get over the outfield, let's talk about Ethan Anderson at DH, because that would have been the toughest call in the whole group. If we had decided we weren't going to have a DH, and it's like, all right, you have to actually pick between Creed Williams and Ethan Anderson behind the plate. That, I know for me, and I'm sure for you guys, would have been the hardest decision to make in this whole group. And Anderson has just been hitting the cover off the ball at Chesapeake this year. And I was listening to a recent episode of the Banner Baseball Show, and John Mioli was talking about Ethan Anderson a little bit in their final segment. And John really, I think, articulated something we've thought about for a while, which is that last year was really a year where Anderson had to put the work in on defense. And he worked hard to get better defensively as a catcher. He's been able to succeed in that area. So putting him at DH is not a knock on his defense. It's just kind of how this roster fell. But what I feel like we're seeing now is that he's been able to work on the defense. He got that run in the Arizona Fall League last year where he could focus on hitting a little bit more because he wasn't catching every day out there. Now the full game is starting to come together where not only is he getting better behind the plate, but some of the things we really liked about the bat coming out of Virginia are showing themselves here. And I know that there's been some discussion about the lopsided home road splits and the fact that he plays at a hit-friendly ballpark in Bowie, but I'm not really concerned about that at all. I just think that with the kind of power he's showing, how hard he hits the ball, that the bat's for real.
Yeah, and honestly, he's just a really complete player. If we had to pick a catcher, I would have went with Anderson just because he can actually play defense at the position. But yeah, I think he does a little bit of everything. He can hit for some pop. He can hit for some average. He can get on base with the walk. He's pretty decent behind the plate, in my opinion, my very amateur opinion. But yeah, I love what he's done. He's been just super quiet and steady all year long. Hasn't gone on like some monster week or run or even game, but just very, very consistent. One of the most consistent players on offense in the entire system this entire season.
Yeah, I mean, and we talked about that especially a lot during his Arizona Fall League stint when he started hitting well. It was not just the fact that there was probably a lot of work done with him behind the plate, but also he came out of the gate so hot at the start of last year and then really like kind of hit a wall. And then there was the IL stint. So clearly there's like some sort of injury. So maybe injuries lingering, the defensive work. And then, yeah, when he goes out the Arizona Fall League, he was pretty much just Luis De Leon's personal catcher out there in the AFL. I think those are the only games he caught. But you didn't see the power. 4 home runs last year, 1 in the Arizona Fall League. And he wasn't showing the power, but like the EVs were up. It was a lot of doubles. I think he led the AFL in doubles, if I remember correctly, at like 7 or 8. And that's what led me to think, all right, he's barreling the ball more. He's making a little bit more impact. We know he can walk a lot, but I just felt like this guy is going to be someone who hits for a pretty solid average. And maybe he gets 10 to 12 home runs this year, but he already has 11 this year, which is what I can't wrap my head around. Sure, there might be juiced baseballs in the minor league. Sure, yes, it is hitter friendly, but it's not like super extreme park factors down there. Those 11 home runs are legit for Ethan Anderson. And yeah, I don't care about home road splits in the minor leagues. I don't think they really can tell you too much. At the end of the day, he's hitting the ball and he's hitting the ball well and he's doing it consistently.
We'll go out to the outfield now, and this is where we had some really tough decisions to make. Now, the easy one in the group is Ike Irish. He's had a great first half at Frederick, getting a lot of run defensively in the outfield. So easy pick there for us. But then you've got some players down in Delmarva that were making really strong cases in Braylon Whitaker and DJ Layton. And then down in the FCL, Hector Campusano has just been hitting the cover off the ball. That allowed him to get the nod, and the final spot in the outfield did end up going to Whitaker in a tiebreaker, but we did have a dead heat here with these 4 players, so I think it's worth talking about all of them. We could start with Iris, who was a unanimous consensus choice. That was the obvious guy, but then looking at Whitaker, Campusano, and Layton, they're all 3 very unique players with different kinds of profiles, but they've all impressed in the first half.
Yeah, Ike Irish, our number 1 prospect, polished college hitter who's in high A, should be in double A. His numbers aren't super flashy, but just, again, pretty consistent. He's had some slight ups and downs, a little bit of around the injury especially, but it seems like he's back on the horse now. Happy to see it. I think he had a couple home runs this week. For me, I had DJ Layton and Hector Campusano. Campusano, obviously we haven't seen him, but just – I know Simkin in the chat has been down in Florida this week, getting to see some eyes on the FCL Orioles, and consistently he's commented on in our patron Discord, by the way, shout out, that Campusano just hits the ball hardest the most often. Makes sense when you look at his stat line. I don't know how much longer they can keep him down in the FCL before he gets to bump up to Delmarva, but he's been fantastic and obviously a little bit more limited playing time. It was very close between Layton and Whitaker for me. I went with Layton just because I think he has evolved a little bit more as the seasons went on. Whitaker, he's still got that great defense, solid arm. He's hitting the ball for average, walking a lot, not impacting the ball a lot. It's been pretty consistent, whereas DJ Layton, I feel like his strikeout rate has improved as the season's gone along. Still walking a ton, hits for more impact, still playing premium positions, multiple of them up the middle. So it was a close call, but I went with Layton over Whitaker.
I will point out, and I mean, this gets distorted a little bit, kind of blurred lines there because you've got Jaden Loray kind of playing all over the infield and the outfield. You've got a lot of guys playing multiple positions, including infield and outfield. But I did feel like looking through this, the outfield stuff, not the strongest group. I feel like the strength went to the infield. I don't know if you guys felt the same way. But yeah, and even Ike Irish, like, would you probably more so consider him first base? Maybe, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, Irish, the counting stats, and that's what I didn't use. Like, go back to the monthly articles we do. It's more counting stats here. We'll use that. The prospect status, player development, sure, if you want to have that player role in it, you can. But I mean, for this exercise, a little bit more loose. So the counting stats matter, I think, a little bit more when I'm putting the list together. And Ike Irish still has 20 extra base hits, and I think he's fourth or fifth in the system in RBI. Like guys are on base, he's knocking them in. But yeah, I went DJ Layton and Braylon Whitaker. I did think Campusano was a guy I wanted to put in there, and I went with Braylon Whitaker just because he's doing it in single A. And yeah, he may not have the counting stats that I just preached about there for this exercise, but he's hitting 275. He's got a 395 on base percentage, 17% walk rate, more walks than strikeouts, and 15 stolen bases. And just, it blows my mind that this kid didn't play last year. He played like 6 games or something in the FCL, but he got hurt. He essentially had no year last year, and they push him up to single A, and he's to play as well as he has. This year has been a lot of fun to watch. And yeah, DJ Layton just filling up the stat sheet. 10 doubles, 3 triples, 4 home runs, popped a 109 mile per hour home run last week. So 131 WRC plus, 19 stolen bases. You talk about that create that dirtbag mentality, that play at 100 miles per hour. I feel like DJ Layton's in that camp as well. It's a lot of stolen bases, but he's also been caught a lot. He's got a lot of swing and miss in the game, but that is improving. But he's kind of this, once he settles down and kind of lets the game come to him a little bit more and slows it down a little bit more, I feel like DJ Layton starts to make a little bit more contact. That would be nice as well, which he is doing. I feel like DJ Layton's a guy who honestly could start to take off. Probably this time next year, we're talking about him in a little bit differently.
Yeah, definitely. I could see a lot more power coming from him, and the defensive versatility really has been good to see. I went with Whitaker for the last spot just because I feel like the plate approach overall has been better. And although this comes down to pure subjective eye tests, the defense has really impressed me with Whitaker this year. I have a feeling that as he moves up the ladder, we're going to be talking about his defense a lot more. As I said in our episode last week, he was in the mix for me when I was thinking about best arm in the system. I've seen him make some really good throws on a line this year. He can play all 3 outfield spots really well and cover a lot of ground. So that kind of was part of the decision for Whitaker, but I certainly think you could argue that DJ Layton's ceiling as a prospect is higher, and that we've seen that in flashes this year. And then with Campusano, Bob touched on it, just how hard he is hitting the ball down in the FCL. He's got to get to Delmarva soon. We'll go over now to the starting rotation, and there was a slight split here, which I'll get into, but for the most part, we pretty much had the same rotation. Joseph Giro, without a doubt, the number 1 starter with the year that he has had between Frederick and Chesapeake. Not only has Giro been, I think, hands down the best pitching prospect statistically in the Orioles farm system this year, but maybe one of the best in all of the minors. And then rounding out that group, you could throw in a couple more left-handers with Sebastian Gongora and Caden Hunter, who both get the nod. Gongora putting up really solid numbers down at AA Chesapeake, while Hunter has been excellent between Delmarva and Frederick after beginning the year on the IL. Ibero Cartaya, a guy that has always had really good stuff, has harnessed the command this year and really taken off at Frederick. He gets the nod in our rotation. Rounding the group out is Christian Rodriguez. After missing all the 2025 season with an injury, the 2024 draft pick has been basically a strikeout machine down at Delmarva this year. And when the time comes for another move from Frederick to Bowie on the pitching side, and I have to think that with the first half drawing to a close, that is going to happen soon, Rodriguez has to be the first name on the list of guys to get the bump from Delmarva to Frederick. He has been that good this year. So what are your guys' thoughts on what is a pretty top to bottom strong rotation?
It's a great rotation, and I think there are even more guys that are deserving of mention. Which, hey, you didn't make the All-Star team, make the second half All-Star team, I guess. But yeah, I think Christian Rodriguez. It might be as simple as soon as Francisco Morale and or Holden DeJong are ready to move up to Delmarva, that maybe he would get the bump up and then start a cavalcade as we get close up to the second half, and hopefully, I mean, it just seems like every weekend I'm waiting for the big shift, the tectonic shift in movement. But yeah, it's great rotation. Jirwa, obviously. I mean, he's put himself on the map, not just within our circles, but within all of minor league prospects in baseball and fantasy. And he's shooting up there. I would not be shocked if he's a unanimous top 100 prospect once those midseason ranks come out. Caden Hunter, another one. Between Hunter and Jirwa, I feel like JT Quinn, if it wasn't for them, he'd be getting more notice for the season he's had. But those guys deserve all the love they're getting. Yeah, Cartaya, there was a nice piece out on him, and I think it was on Baseball America from John Mioli the last couple of days, about talking about his renaissance and his evolution. And yeah, he is either going to be a nice trade chip this July or just a nice prospect that rises up the ranks. But he's having a tremendous season. Gongora, again, he's kind of like the Ethan Anderson on the pitching side for me, where it's just been consistent, does everything pretty well, nothing that stands out dramatically, but just consistently doing it start after start all season long. And I think that's it.
Yeah, I like the point of there are actually 6 guys in the FCL right now, just pitchers in the FCL right now on rehab, and a lot of them have been down there for a couple of weeks. They're all should get to Delmarva or Frederick. You can mix them around a little bit. There's a 7th who he's going to go to AAA once he's ready, but hopefully you see a lot of movement when those guys get back here in the next week or so, which would be a lot of fun. Because Christian Rodriguez, that's the thing with me with Rodriguez. It's like, how high do I want to put him in my top 50? And I am kind of a little hesitant just because he's 24 years old and he's doing this in single A. But like, to his credit, he didn't pitch at all last year, and he also missed 2022 or 2023. He's missed 2 full years in the last 4 or 5 years because he had Tommy John in college as well. So he's missed a lot of time recently, but the 70 strikeouts in 57 innings is just absurd to see. So I gave him the edge there. Nestor Herman and JT Quinn were definitely in the mix for me. Caden Hunter, just has he had an outing where he had less than like 15 whiffs, even though he only goes 4 innings? I truly don't think so. He's typically at the top of the leaderboard there after each of his starts. At one point, I know each of these guys have had 1 or 2 outings, but at one point a week or so ago, the top 3 strikeout arms in all of minor league baseball were Cade Anderson, who, as we mentioned earlier, is going to be pitching with the Seattle Mariners here in the major leagues in his first year of pro ball, and Seth Johnson, who's just another freak that the Pirates drafted in that rotation, another arm there. And then it was Caden Hunter, the 6th round pick that the Orioles took right there with them. So fun to see there. Yeah, you guys touched on Jura. Gongora, it's still just, you're waiting for that walk rate to maybe spike up a little bit more, but it's not. It's 58 innings now at AA level with a 6% walk rate. Again, 12% last year. I think that's pretty stable at this point. So I feel like a lot of guys, I mentioned this in the weekly recap episode this week, a lot of guys had off weeks last week, but they've been so dominant for so long that it's okay. They're going to have hiccups. Gongora was included in that, but to still be running a 5-6% walk rate this late in the year is awesome. And why, like, my evaluation of him is like, I firmly think he's a guy who, with more development, could be someone who's in the mix for a back end rotation spot in the big leagues. And I did not view him as that coming into this year, as much of a fan of his that I was.
Completely agree. He has really risen his stock this year. I had Herman in my mix because the expected stats at Norfolk are much better than the 4.73 ERA suggests, at least as of the time of recording. And the strikeout numbers have been there. I think its pitch mix looks as good as it ever has. So I like where he is, but Christian Rodriguez does belong here. If you look at the strikeout numbers that he's put up, and while he is older at 24, I would point out, too, that this isn't completely unexpected. His pitch data during his time at Cal State Fullerton, from the little bit we had on it, was pretty good. So there's reason to believe that he had pretty good stuff. And, of course, that's going to get tested when he moves up. But he has been excellent for Delmarva. And Caden Hunter, I just go back to his first start this year. Watching that, and I'm thinking, okay, there's something interesting here. But I don't know. The command doesn't seem like it's quite there yet. He opened the year on the IL. Let's wait and see. And then from his second start on, he's just been flat out dominant, as Nick pointed out, generating whiffs right and left. The efficiency thing is something that he needs to work on, but he has been excellent this year, and statistically, one of the best strikeout pitchers in all of minor league baseball. So he absolutely belongs here.
Yeah. I think thinking about it a little bit more in prepping for this, yeah, he's we talked about this the other week. Would love to see him start going like 5+ innings instead of just 4 every time. And yes, the walk rate is a little higher than you'd love to see right now, but he's only had a handful of starts in his pro career up to this point. And as we talked a lot about the velo, I wonder if a lot of it too is that he's learning to sit with, he's sitting 95, 96. He wasn't doing that in college. So now he's learning to sit with this higher velo. Once he starts to get that under better control, how much higher is he going to take off?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I mean, Christian Rodriguez, what helps me a little bit is we've seen this, like with Blake Money and Braxton Bragg. Like, it's not unheard of that they slow play that first full season a little bit with some guys, certain guys. Maybe they're working on something specifically with him. And he's already played for Frederick, right? So he can just skip them and go straight to Chesapeake.
He's cool. He can go back to his old apartment and he knows where to go.
We'll wrap up here with our bullpen, and it's a fairly stacked group. Yaki Rivera, who has had a really nice year between AA and AAA this year, gets out along with Braden Sloan, a pick last year out of TCU, who impressed us right away with his changeup at Delmarva. He got a quick promotion to Frederick and has continued to pitch well. Another left-hander, Micah Ashman, gets a nod, and then rounding out the group are Joe Glassie and Andrew Magno. And Nick, I want to start with you because through doing the monthly prospect teams over our Substack, you've had a chance to kind of follow some of these guys. A few of them, or perhaps all of them, have been on both monthly teams so far. What has stood out to you about this group?
I don't know what Andrew Magno did. The stuff doesn't pop off the page. If you look at, if it pull up any prospect savant, TJ Stats, whatever, everybody's got their model now. Pull up any of them. None of it pops. And I wrote, in the off season, I like to write up the little moves like this in the off season because it's winter. There's nothing to do. And I do genuinely love writing. And when you don't do it, it really does hard to get back into it. And it really is that muscle that you got to keep flexing. And so I just, they signed Andrew Magno to a minor league deal. It's late November. It's early December. It's 10 degrees outside. I got nothing else to do. Sure. And I remembered him from his just insane college performance. He had a Big Ten tournament when he was at Ohio State. But he had said in an interview, I even watched an interview he did at AA level last year. That's how slow last winter was in the baseball world. He was like, yeah, he got a taste of AAA a couple years ago in the Tiger system. He was like, I didn't know how to prepare. My preparation was all off, and nothing felt right. This isn't just more preparation or better preparation. So I don't know what the Orioles did with him, but it's a .64 ERA across 28 innings in AAA. So yeah, not a prospect, but a ton of fun for sure. Joe Glassie, I saw got a lot of hype on the social media channels today because Orioles beat writers doing some off day searching, I guess. Look, Joe Glassie, we've talked about him for 2 years now. I don't have the updated data on him, but I do know I wrote a whole piece about all the UDFAs last year. His college numbers, he was the closer for Illinois. He sat 92 with 20 inches of induced vertical break. That's with the college baseball, of course, but still 5 pitches. And between 2 MLB Draft League stints, a Cape Cod League stint, and his final year at Illinois, 66 total innings. He struck out 69 hitters, walked just 12. That's insane. And in pro ball, he's got 58 innings, 87 strikeouts, 10 walks. So UDFA guy there, Mango, undrafted free agent who was on the verge of being out of pro ball, turning it around in AAA. Just a lot of fun. And just I want to shout out the prospect here. Yaki Rivera, I feel like we're going to talk a lot about over the next couple of weeks. Braden Sloan, we talked a lot about in the last couple of weeks as well. But just Micah Ashman. I know we talked about him a little bit as well, but he hit that IL stint. That didn't slow him down. It was a small bump in the road. He's still striking out 40% of guys with an 8% walk rate. Yeah, you mentioned earlier, Bob, I think that maybe he could be a guy that gets to the big leagues at some point this year. hopefully with more of these arms returning to health and we see a big shuffle, Ashman gets the bump up to AAA because I don't know what else he's got left to prove at the AA level. And to continue to realize you traded the scraps of Charlie Morton, what used to be Charlie Morton, to get Micah Ashman, just and chef's kiss, unbelievable trade.
Yeah, this is a reference that only the hardcore patrons in the Discord will get, but Charlie Morton got eaten by the Balrog, and out came Mike Ashman from the ashes. So, yeah, it's fantastic stuff. What else can he do? 32% strikeout to walk rate, just electric fastball when that's pretty much all he throws. Striking out stars, major league stars in the World Baseball Classic earlier in the year. Just what a year for Mike Ashman. Did an interview with us. He's so lucky.
Can I say about that? What pisses me off about that interview? He didn't even tip us off that he was pitching for Canada, and we had him on not so long before the World Baseball Classic. But anyway, next time we get him on, I'll bring that up. But sorry.
Yeah, no, fantastic stuff. Yeah, Yaki Rivera, Braden Sloan, pretty slam dunks. I mean, these guys are just having fantastic years. It would have been interesting if we had to go to 6 relievers because I feel like these 5 are like the obvious ones, and then it's kind of like pick your poison after that. But yeah, Joe Glassy, man. I just said 32% strikeout to walk rate for Mike Ashman. Joe Glassy's is 36%. So get him up to AA as well. Again, as we do this, hopefully the shift that's coming. And yeah, Andrew Magno. It's hilarious to me because I'll check the TJ stats stuff every once in a while just to see if anything's changed. And Ryan Long, electric stuff. Gerald Agondo, we've talked about 5+ pitches. Like, you can just go down these guys with awesome stuff. Trace Bright gets lit up in AAA with great stuff. All these guys with great stuff with terrible numbers. And then Andrew Magno's got like 3 or 4 well below average pitches and just ERA less than 1. Make it make sense. But hey, that's baseball, baby.
Gotta love it.
Yeah, thinking about this, Nick, going back to the conversation we had in our last episode, like the Orioles are going to try to leverage the September call-ups if they're in contention, and they'll find a reliever that they think will be really good for that particular week for 2 or 3 starts or 2 or 3 outings and bring them up. What if Andrew Magno is like the ace in the hole in the bullpen in September? That would not have been something anybody saw coming at the start of the season, and yet it would be a great place to be right now.
Good luck with this 86-mile-per-hour gyro slider or whatever.
No, this is a good, and I know we've talked about it 1,000 times and we've never actually done it, but just a ranking of just the relief prospects in the system. I do feel like you could go legitimately 15 super strong names where you're like,
let's do it next week.
I could see it. I'm down. But like legitimately, like you could see like, yeah, like there's a plus offering there, and he's not walking anybody in the minor leagues, and he's striking a decent amount of guys out. And could there be a role for him? I don't know. Be a lot of fun.
Just to go back to Micah Ashman real quick, I think everything you guys both said about these pitchers is correct. I just would throw this out there about Ashman. It's so much fun to watch a guy who strikes out as many batters as he does, doesn't walk anybody, and runs ground ball rates in the high 40s. That's someone that's got to have a role in the major league bullpen somewhere down the line if he's able to keep that up.
Yeah. Well, Braden Sloan's 64% ground ball rate says "hold my beer" to that. But no, the other thing with Micah Ashman, when he was on with us, he also talked about like, wasn't it? He was really working on the splitter, and he was excited about that pitch. Is he throwing the splitter? Do you guys know?
That's
Is
a
it
good
just
question.
It's just all fastballs?
I feel like it's mostly just fastballs still, but from
I
what
thought
I've
we were
seen.
going to that big tall. Was he 6'7", 6'8", that big tall, and he was excited about getting that splitter, throwing that in games. But I don't know if he's been throwing that this year or not. But maybe it's another trick he's got in his bag.
I mean, I feel like Ashman, Sloan, even Magno, could any of them do any worse than Keegan Aiken this year? The Orioles bullpen right now.
All right, that's our 3rd episode. Hit the intro again.
On this episode of Orioles on the Verge, is Keegan Aiken terrible? Yes or definitely yes?
Absolutely, yes.
And before we go down that rabbit hole, we will head into our final segment. Last call brought to you by Checker Spot Brewing, located at 1421 Ridgely Street. Checker Spot is not far from Camden Yards. making it the perfect place for a pre or post game drink. And if you don't have tickets to the game this year or the Orioles are out of town, just head over to Checker Spot and watch the game. Plenty of televisions along with good food and drink, and they are open 7 days a week. So be sure to check them out at 1421 Ridley Street and Checker Spot, and that is Checker Spot Brewing. And now we'll head into this question. I think we've touched on it at various points of our discussion tonight, but who is the best player that we did not put on the list? Now, this isn't necessarily best prospect, but the best player statistically in the first half that for whatever reason missed the team.
I guess I'll start. I'll say on the pitcher side, JT Quinn. I just think, like I mentioned earlier, like if it wasn't for the fact that the 2025 draft class has just given us a glutton of great pitching prospects, his strikeouts have kind of faded down a little bit in the last few weeks, but he's still got a low 3 ERA with a 25+% strikeout rate. And I don't know. He's just consistently going out and get the job done. I'm sure he'll be you can't have everybody at AA, but it seems like he could be a guy that gets to AA before the season is over and just continues to build on what he's done. So I'll say him on the pitcher side. For the hitter, I'll say Anderson De Los Santos because I think it's like a 792 OPS. Yeah, it came down from a very hot start, but he's got a bunch of RBI. And Frederick Bencosme is right there with him. So between Anderson De Los Santos and Frederick Bencosme would be my honorable mentions.
Yeah, I had JT Quinn as well, just because it's any other year that we've done this show since 2020. If we would have done this exact episode, like JT Quinn is like slam dunk top 2 for sure, just based on numbers alone. And this year, it's like I honestly didn't even give him much thought, and that's nothing against him. That's just how many arms are excelling this year, and that says a lot. For JT Quinn is still one of the top pitching prospects in this entire system, so he's having a fantastic year. And yeah, hitters, I really thought about putting Freddie Bencosme in my kind of fitting him in somewhere, just because the home runs, and I know that was my big thing for the last couple of years. Bencosme was, yes, the home runs were increasing as he moved up the ladder, but they just weren't very impactful home runs. And clearly he's adding more thump on the baseball this year. 8 home runs, 11 doubles, hitting 255. I think he's above league average WRC plus 101, 102, something like that. Anyway, he's also doing that while learning a new position, playing primarily out in left field. So shout out to Bencosme for a strong season.
Yeah, it's definitely Quinn on the pitching side. I mean, I could throw Nestor Herman in there too, but I talked about him a little bit earlier. I did have him on my roster, so I'll go with Quinn among the pitchers. He's been really impressive. And Nick, you're right. In most seasons that we've been doing this episode, he would have been a lock to be in the rotation. I have a feeling that if we do a second half all-star team or a total all-star team at the end of the year, he's going to be there. And then for hitters, a couple of guys that I would shout out. Bencosme is a good pick. Leandro Arias has had a really nice bounce back year, performed well over the last month or so. He was in the mix for me, and I even thought about Braylon Tavera a little bit, just because of what he's shown this year, hitting for a little bit more power, but I felt like he wasn't quite there for me, but it's been good to see the bounce back that he's had this year in Frederick after 2 kind of lost years down in Delmarva between injuries in 2024 and just not really getting going at the plate last year. He's rebounded in a nice way.
Yeah, you know what's crazy is I almost picked Ellis Cuevas with the start that he got off to. That's pretty insane because since May 5th, he is batting .351. This is over 110 plate appearances. .351, the OPS just under 1,000, 152 WRC plus, ISO of 237, striking out less than 25% of the time. Like 4 doubles, 2 triples, 5 home runs, 12 stolen bases. Like if he would have just not had that dreadful start, like he could have been on this list.
I don't know what clicked, but something did because he was hitting like 0.75, like almost a month into the year. So yeah, his turnaround is unbelievable that he's had in the last 6-7 weeks.
And with that, that does it for this week. So we'll be back next week. Maybe we will have the all reliever prospect ranking. Maybe we'll have some draft coverage. Who knows? We'll figure that out in the next week. In the meantime, you can check out our many social media accounts, including Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and Blue Sky. We're also over at Substack, OriolesOnTheVerge.substack.com. And while you're browsing around the internet, be sure over at Patreon.com and sign up to become a member today at the $3, $5, or $10 levels. You will have access to bonus weekly coverage from Bob, Nick, and myself, as well as monthly updates to our top 50 list and patron-exclusive channels within our Discord community. So be sure to head over to Patreon.com and check out those benefits and a whole lot more. For Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens, this is Zach Spedden. You've been listening to Orioles on the Verge, part of the Believe Podcast Network.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.